What is up, Jabronis? JJ back here with Spread, talking a little tennis for the Olympics. Definitely expect this more often. Maybe not always with me involved, maybe not always with Spread involved, but definitely more tennis content overall on this channel. The timing's always going to vary depending on when the matches are. Like the matches tonight, or I'd argue they're tomorrow, right? Late in the evening for us East Coast Americanos. West Coast's a little better. Your matches start about 11 p.m., but that's still late. So overall, though, we're a lot to look forward to here. I think that, first of all, let me just give a quick shout out to you, Spread, grabbing the upset dub with Svitolina versus Sakkari. I'll be honest, I did not watch the match. Maybe you did. I would presume Svitolina became like a wall of sorts for Sakkari in terms of getting a lot back and, keeping rallies alive. And then Sakkari must have piled up unforced errors. Was that kind of how it happened?
Yeah, and that was exactly how it happened. And then the one thing that we'll give Svitolina credit for, which is going to be the key for her as she closes out this medal run, she served well. High percentage of first serves, good placement, allowed her to get really a bunch of free points that way and able to put pressure on Sakkari. And I just thought that the way she played really matched up well with Maria, as she was kind of able to take some of that fight and some of that fieriness that Maria uses and just grind it out of her by saying, hey, I'll play your game too. I'll sit back on the baseline and grind with you. You're not going to beat me mentally, which I think is something that Sakkari has been doing a lot lately on the tour. She just seems like she can't be fatigued. So credit to Svitolina, especially coming off a wedding to be in such good condition. So give her some props there.
Yeah, no, kudos there. And look, I lost my Duckworth Khachanov play over 21 and a half games. And look, I got the 12 games I needed in the first set. But yeah, Duckworth's fitness levels looked woeful in that second set. Definitely looked very tired, moving to a lot of hard hit balls from Khachanov. And yeah, I think I ended up getting broken 3 times in that second set. So kind of wild there. But overall, I listened back to the show and there was a lot more good than bad. I'll tell you that. I mean, you're never going to get all these matches right. You're likely not going to get them all wrong, but the goal is, of course, to be more right than wrong. The first show, we definitely accomplished that. I'd like a little more clarity on my end on certain matches. But either way, looking forward to talking these through. There's only 6 matches here, so this will be a relatively quick show. But it'll be good to get some perspective. And speaking of Khachanov, first match versus Humbert. And now we mentioned the last time that we don't necessarily like laying vig with Humbert. But as a pick'em, the kid is ultra talented, and here gets a pick'em against Khachanov. My issue, though, is Khachanov is a very, for the most part, safe player. Okay, he's got the big serve, doesn't make a whole lot of unforced errors against players he's not supposed to, and I just feel like could rattle Humbert a bit here, especially with the consistent power. And look, let's be honest, Khachanov's looked good here. It's not like he's beating schlubs to get here. Like I said, I continue to say Duckworth's an underrated player. He's not great by any means, not at this point in his career, but he's an underrated player. Nishioka's definitely a bit underrated. And Schwartzman, yeah, sure, not his preferred surface, but definitely the type of guy that could have grinded out a win versus Khachanov for sure. And then you look at who Humbert's beat. He hasn't exactly had an easy road here either. Upsets Kecmanovic. Was he slightly favored there? Spread, do you remember?
I think Humbert was slightly favored, but it was pretty much a pick 'em, and you'd have to say that's a good win. I think Kecmanovic has been playing well lately, so
yeah.
I think definitely he has the more impressive path of the 3 wins that he's got so far. I think Humbert does, but that being said, I think there are some matchup issues here for Khachanov.
Yeah, so my favorite look actually in this match is going to be the over 2.5 sets. I'm just trying to see the line. It'll probably be like plus 120-ish, plus 125. A line like this, total like this, usually it's not great. Yeah, so plus 120. The reason why I like it is I think you have 2 entirely complacent players. You mentioned it before how Khachanov, when he goes up a break, gets a little complacent, does similar things when he goes up a set as well. He plays a lot of 3-set matches. And Humbert, we've already seen it. I mean, the dude is a complacent machine when things are going really right, and when things are going wrong, you do see an elevated version of him. And I think that's going to play to both counter strengths here. And I think that even though it's 120, which is one of the lower tier prices you'll see for a 3-setter, to me, it makes a lot of sense. First of all, this can go 3 sets regardless whether players get complacent or not. And I think you have 2 players that both get complacent with leads and both are both are very live in a tiebreak. If it gets there, it should be a big serve off back and forth. Overall, that's my favorite look from here. What do you think, Spread?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you, and I think the complacency is a great point, but it's almost like the cherry on the top of the idea that this matchup will lend itself to being a long match. I think the over looks good, and I think that you're going a little more aggressive, right? Getting 30 cents of value there on you're getting plus 120 on over 2.5 sets.
Yeah, on DraftKings.
Yeah, and so if I were to do the correlated just over on the games, of course I can sneak through with the 2 sets, but I'm losing 30 cents of value here. Most likely, if this does go over, it's a 3-setter, so I like your look there. On the side, I've been big on Khachanov lately, and I think that he gets it done here against Humbert. I did say that I thought that Humbert's path here was a little more impressive, but because Khachanov matches Humbert's strength so well, and we'll be able to just go like kind of toe for toe with him as far as get the big serve in, either get the ace or the forehand winner. I really just like his ability to get things done here. You said, he's not, he doesn't give away a lot of points here. So I think that is going to be the difference here. I like Khachanov at this short price. I agree with you on your over, but the way I'm attacking it is I'm going to go and take the side and take Khachanov here.
I like it. And I lean that way with you too, because again, I just, it's very difficult for me to mentally put myself in Humbert's shoes. Because I watch him enough where he is so up and down mentally through a match, where Khachanov's a bit of a safer player. So I definitely lean that way. But again, from a talent perspective, if we talked about the ceiling of both players, Humbert's ceiling is likely better. But again, how often do we really get that version of him?
And I would say Khachanov is much closer to his ceiling right now as a player, just with the extra experience. This time on tour and his ability. I've seen Khachanov beat more top-level players than I have Humbert.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, Medvedev, Carreno-Busta. Look, there should be no better narrative here than what we discussed from the last show, right? I mean, basically the flow chart, kind of like you hinted at. Is Carreno-Busta playing a top 10 player? Yes or no? If the answer is no, you can practically bet Carreno-Busta at almost any price, and he'll likely cover your games. He'll likely win 2 sets. When he plays a top 10 player, though, this is a completely different player. He does not take the step up in elevation very well, talent-wise. And here, he's going to get a very good version of Medvedev. And I look at this price here, and this might seem big to some people. I think it's small or smaller than it should be. You can actually lay a set and a half with Medvedev here, $125. Now, of course, Medvedev is the occasional player that gives up a service game. And my issue, though, is Carreno-Busta doesn't have an outrageous serve. He's going to get a lot of pressure here on his points, on his racket. Now, granted, of course, Carreno-Busta is still very good in rallies, very tough to get the ball past. These courts are playing slower than your typical hard courts. Overall, though, my best look in this game would be laying the set and a half with Medvedev. Again, this just goes back to my roots on Carreno-Busta. He is tough to trust in matches. You know what he kind of reminds me of, Spread? Kind of reminds me of Tsitsipas like a few years back when Tsitsipas would beat up on all inferior competition. But anytime the big 3 came to town, I mean, the dude would just lay down. It wouldn't even like he showed 6'2", 6'2", almost inevitably against any of the big 3. But anybody else, his record was incredible. Carreno-Busta kind of reminds me of that, but it stretches into the top 10, as you mentioned. I think all those are relevant here, and that's why I'd personally, if I was going to bet it, won't be betting it myself. But again, strong lean, laying the set and half Medvedev.
Yeah. So this is where, I think it was Mark Twain that said, in order to be a good writer, you need to learn the rules of grammar so that way you can break them. I completely agree with you on PCB here. And normally I'd be right in lockstep with you. But unfortunately, this is one of the times I think I'm going to break those rules of grammar and really try and get creative with my writing here. And I'll give you my reason. I was not impressed, or I don't know what the right word is, but I took a lot into the fact that Medvedev was really struggling in that humidity. I mean, that was the first time I've ever seen a player ask an umpire, like, what happens if I die on the court? Are you guys going to be held responsible? So to me, that shows a player who's not comfortable in the conditions. Obviously, he gutted it out and he got the 3-set win over Fognini. But, dealing with the cramps, dealing with the humidity here, I like the dog here at the price that we're getting. I'm seeing about a plus 220, a 3.20. This is the dog I'll take my chance on here on the men's side. I think PCB's really got the game and the style to really trouble someone who's feeling uncomfortable, right? You're hot, you're humid. What's the last thing you want to play? The robot on the back that's just going to hit the ball back over and over again.
Yeah.
So, well, normally, this would be hey, he's playing a guy out of the top 10 fade, or in the top 10 fade. I'm going to go ahead and break those rules on this match today, and I'm going to put some money on PCB just because I don't feel that Medvedev is 100%, and I don't think he's adapting to the conditions as well as he would have liked.
Yeah, and it brings up a good point. I mean, both players haven't really played a whole lot of tough competition. Cilic challenged Busta a bit, but again, nothing crazy. And then Medvedev, outside of Fognini, where he kind of struggled, as you mentioned, with the conditions. Again, for me personally, I'd expect to see a player that's just going to hit through or going to be able to hit through Busta. But like you said, it's a good point about the fitness levels. They just might not be there. So that's a good call there. Okay, so moving on to the next. Joker and Nishikori. So as I've mentioned, Nishikori's my boy. I love his game. Obviously, I loved him even more when he was inside the top 5. He's not that type of player anymore. More of it has to do with fitness levels and injuries. I mean, is it even worth talking about here? I mean, Nishikori, it's a great story for him. But is this really the type of player that can beat Joker in this venue? I mean, I don't know. He's not going to hit through him. To me, Joker's at the point in his career where he gets beaten by players who can really hit through him. Even like Shapovalov was a really impressive match against him recently. Even though I think he got 3-0'd, but it was a lot closer than that looked. But you saw Shapovalov was able to hit through him, able to hit through him with the one-handed backhands and forehands left and right, go line to line. Nishikori doesn't have that kind of power. So I just feel like Joker's going to be able to exploit that all match. I'm not going to bet it. This is a super, super big line. But again, what's your take here with Joker?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at these matches, right, and that it actually goes away from what we usually do in tennis, which is just pick the winner, take the money line, and let it ride here. The only way you can even look at this from a betting perspective is, laying or taking the games and looking at this total here of 19. I was actually a little disappointed at plus 832. I guess they can't get any higher, but I thought it would correlate a little higher, right? For example, Key plus 832, plus 5.5. Chardy, when we're going to talk about next, plus 506 is only plus 4.5. So there, $3 worth of juice is only worth the game. But I guess they do not want to get past that dreaded 6 games, the 6-3, 6-3 to where it comes down to a coin flip. I don't feel like getting involved, if you were, the mythical one that we love, like you give $100, but you have to bet this match. I'd probably take the plus 5.5, but I don't really love it. We talked about, there's no reason to get in front of players that are just, playing so well. There's so many other spots on the board. I'm not going to take a stand or feel a need to be brave here by fading Joker, to try and be the one guy on tennis Twitter that got it right, and gets to puff my chest. I think this is easily a stay away. But I guess if you really want to get involved, I would take the games. But I mean, would you be surprised if he won this 6-2, 6-2? It's probably the worst matchup for Nishikori of all the big 3.
No, I couldn't agree more. And like I said, I'm a Nishikori fanboy, so I couldn't agree more. This is not a good matchup for him and not a good spot. I wouldn't lay the games personally with Joker either, though, because again, you're really capping his motivation. Because it's very likely it'll come down to the number or very near it.
Yeah.
And does he want to break on the last?
Does he want to get 2 breaks in the second set?
Yeah.
Or is he just going to ride the first one in? I don't feel like putting money on that.
Yeah.
We have no idea. He might feel like, I need a little extra tennis in here. I'm not really too worried about this, or I want to work on this part of my return. I'm going to be a little more aggressive on these returns now that I'm up a break, and Sky's 3 of them, right? As he's trying to get things in.
Yeah, and that's an unwritten part of tennis, right? That you watch, and you can actually visibly see it at times, right? You're watching a guy cruise and cruise and cruise. Maybe he's just dominating on his forehand hits towards the right side or forehand hits back and forth, and then all of a sudden you just see him purposely going to like his backhand. The player's not hitting it towards his backhand, but he's kind of setting himself up to hit backhands. This is the type of match for Joker where it's very difficult to see him losing this type of match. And it could be a match where he kind of flirts around a bit, which would make some value on Nishikori. But overall, look, of course, anybody can lose on any given day. Hard to imagine this would be the match Joker loses. But again, we've seen crazier. All right, so we can move over to the last match on the men's side. Chardy and Zverev. So are my numbers correct here, spread? Does Sasha have 1 double fault in 3 matches? Is that correct?
I'll have to look that up. Wow, I didn't catch that. Hey, I'll tell you what, I haven't watched him as much. he's been routining everybody. I mean, talk about, and we were on Zverev before this thing started, and I actually threw it in the Discord as well. Hey guys, if you're going to take a shot pre-tournament, this is going to be the best value. Obviously, going against Djokovic, we're not going to cash a lot of these, but we're still in the business of finding out the mispriced numbers. I felt Alexander Zverev was a mispriced number. I thought he should have been really close to Medvedev and team. And I'll tell you what, even if I don't cash that, I'm feeling pretty good about that prediction with Tsitsipas, who was plus 550 already out. Medvedev, who's plus 450, struggling with the thing. If there's a ticket I want that's not a Djokovic ticket, I'm pretty happy to have it be a Zverev ticket right now, the way he's playing. And I think that he rolls here. Once again, I don't really like to get involved in laying these games unless I feel like it's a huge mismatch. The only time I'll really lay games is we'll be on some of these smaller tournaments when we're these big number games is when we're getting guys that are playing against the local wild cards, right? Like you and me, we play locally and they need someone to jump in the tournament, right? And you see that sometimes. You'll notice they have like pretty much no professional record or something like that. But I'm not really in the business of laying 4.5 here. I mean, I guess if I wanted to get involved, a better way to do it, I guess, would be the under 21. To me, I feel like I'm just going to ride my Zverev ticket. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if he rolls, though. He's playing great, and I can't wait to watch what I expect to be a semifinal between him and Djokovic because, to me, that will be the final. I think that he presents the best chance of upsetting Djokovic.
Yeah, I love the look. I think that it's very difficult to fade a guy like Sasha when he's serving like this because his serving is his big problem, right? His serving consistency. The rest of his game's great, but his second serve specifically gets eaten alive. And from what I'm seeing, his first serve numbers are pretty good. Again, unless numbers I'm looking at it wrong, 1 double fault in 3 matches is incredible for his standards. So I think overall, big picture wise, yes, this number might seem big, especially against a guy like Chardy who serves big. And Zverev, you could say what about parts of his game? His returning isn't exactly the best part about his game. But Chardy's serving this tournament has been very Jekyll and Hyde. A few slip-ups or a few extra slip-ups, and Zverev should be able to get necessary breaks. This is a big spread number, though. So I wouldn't likely want to touch that. If you like Zverev, I would just recommend you bet the under. But overall, I like to look with Zverev. And look, hey, we mentioned players that could challenge Joker. That's the guy. Okay, so moving over to WTA, Belinda Bencic and Rybakina. So we mentioned this on the show and how we liked Belinda against Krejcikova, but is that really the time to really jump in front of the Krejcikova train? Mm-hmm. There's no loss on my end mentally, like the fact that I didn't bet Belinda because ultimately, like we said, why would we jump in front of Krejcikova? But Belinda's playing extremely confidently now. I think that's relative to this number. I don't think it's played into this number enough. So she's 140 here. And to me, if you've watched her play, and granted, we could talk a bit about her serve, which I'm sure you'll get into, Spread, but her quality in rallies has been really good. Her return game has been really good. She's just playing very solid tennis. And when she's playing confidently, she's one of the most fun players to watch in WTA. This confidence I haven't seen from her in probably at least 12 to 14 months or so. It's very good to see her back out there playing very well in a tournament that she's enjoying, clearly. I think this number is too big. I really like Belinda. It'll be my best bet from the show. Plus 140, money line. I think she's super live. I think this line should be closer to a pick 'em. Rybakina is great, young player with a big serve, but she's walking into a bit of a buzzsaw here with how well Belinda's been in rallies. And sure, at any given day, Rybakina serves really well. Belinda's not going to stand a chance, but she's been real gritty, and I like that grit to continue. I think this line's a bit off. Happy to grab the dog.
Yeah, we talked earlier. Name of the game, well, in all gambling, right? But especially in tennis, all we're doing is finding mispriced money lines, and we're usually grabbing the dogs. And I agree with you. This number should be pretty close to a pick 'em. Rybakina's playing quite fantastic, right? And I think, the idea is Muguruza has more of name value here rather than Pavlyuchenkova. But at this point, I rate those wins equally. Now, of course, it took Belinda 3 sets. I'm not going to go ahead and drop that from her. I think that maybe we're getting a little bit overvalued here. To me, this is a pick 'em as well. One other thing I would like to point out, I think the surface is really good for Belinda. If I was going to choose, a surface or an event where, except for I would dial down the humidity just a bit, but I don't think Rybakina deals with that well either. But these slow hard courts, I really think bode well for Belinda, who wants to play the longer points, wants to be in rally, really wants to get into, strategic style affairs on these points. She doesn't mind running up 10, 15 shot rallies, right? She's more comfortable this way. The slowness gives her extra time to get there, get some more balls back in play, and keep asking questions of Rybakina. I think the surface is the final decider on how this becomes a play. I have this as a pick 'em. We're getting some money as a dog here. I agree with you. Let's take Belinda Bencic.
Awesome. And then we move to the last and final match. Your girl, Alina Svitolina Monfils versus Vondrousova. Now, we mentioned an Osaka match and how Osaka more or less had destiny on the brain in the form of this was her tournament to lose with the people who got eliminated, and with Japan on her side, this was hers to lose. It was a shame to see her lose in that fashion, but you got to give credit to Vondrousova. She played really well. It wasn't like this was all Osaka. Sure, a bunch of mishits and such, but this was not by any means all on Osaka's racket. Vondrousova played really, really well and well deserving of the win. And then she followed it up with another win, right? Because I'm talking now 2 days ago. Yeah. Vondrousova then beats Badosa. Well, Badosa retired, so I guess take that for what it's worth. But she at least won a set. I mean, this has been an impressive run. But speaking of impressive, Svitolina's run here has been quite that as well. Upsetting Sakari. I'm not sure what the Georgie line was, but I would assume Svitolina was favored there. Spread.
Svitolina was about 1.7 on European odds.
And that's not an easy win by any means. Svitolina's been playing power players and doing well. Vondrousova is just that. So, if we're kind of fitting the mold here, the question I have for you is, you have a player in Svitolina that's been at least a dog or a semi-small favorite for a bit. She's a decent favorite here against a player who's also playing really well. Do you think even at 155 there's value here on Svitolina because maybe she should be 180, 200? Or do you think the actual opposite, that this could be closer to a pick 'em with value on Vondrousova spread?
No, I think that the price is about right. Probably some slight value on Svitolina here. And it's funny, you talk about, the power of Osaka. Vondrousova's got that forehand that rivals her, right? I mean, she's not a pusher, right? She can get out there and smack the ball. But let's go back to the theme of basically how I've been handicapping these Olympics, and maybe, if we look, what does Chardy always say? Cap the capper. Maybe I look a little too much into surface, but I really think the surface is worse for power players. I think it gives players like Svitolina and Bencic the ability to keep these rallies a little bit longer and ask a little bit more questions of their opponents here. If this is a quicker, Cincinnati style hard court, I would love this matchup for Vondrousova. But with it being slower, I think that really it bodes quite well for Svitolina. And talk about a player that really has nothing to lose. She's kind of moved past that, I can't win a slam deal. She's newly married, came into this tournament with little fanfare. I mean, I think she's number 6 in the world, was number 4 seed in this tournament or something. Barely even spoken about in the outright previews that I did, and also in the outright previews that I read and listened to. She was kind of an afterthought. She comes in here with absolutely no pressure at all, and now she has this time to show out. And I still feel, we use some gambling terms. I still feel that she's kind of emotionally free rolling here. Even if she were to lose, it's still been a successful tournament, and she has to be pretty happy about the way that she played. So I like Svitolina here, and I do believe that she had 63% against Camilla. She can even improve upon that a little. 63% first serve percentage, 76% of first serve points won, and we talked about how important that was for her in order to be successful and try and go home with the gold medal. She needs to get that first serve in and be able to hold her service games, because she is able to put pressure on the return. If you are not hitting your first serve in, she's attacking that second serve. And although we don't think of her as a big hitter, she still knows how to redirect pace. She still knows how to set the tempo of points. And she can put the ball away if you're going to drop it short. Just because she's not blasting 80 miles per hour from behind the baseline doesn't mean that she doesn't have the ability to hit winners here. So slight value here on Svitolina, and I really like her here to go ahead and finish off the tournament. But if we're going to talk about outrights here, right? Because I almost think like for the Zverev match, if you like Zverev, go ahead and just don't bet Zverev and lay the games. Just take the plus 800, and you're basically free rolling, going into this Novak match here next week, assuming you think he's going to win. Looking at the women's side, Even though I think Svitolina is going to win, she's only plus 205 at this point. I think that's too low. The only one I really see value on is Belinda at plus 600. It just seems way too high for a player that we have going into the finals. Now we're getting 6-1 on the finals. We can hedge out, assuming that we win this match. I think that Zverev is still worth a look on the outright market, and Belinda's worth a look at well. And I will be betting Svitolina in this head-to-head matchup. Sorry about the rambling response.
No, it's good.
I got excited.
Good to talk a little futures as well. And I'll tell you this: I like the Belinda look mainly for this reason. Assuming Svitolina does win, I still can't get. I mean, wins her this match. I still can't get past the fact that she has some severe bad losses in finals. Now I know that you are right to a certain point that she is kind of free rolling here, maybe mentally. But, man, at some point, those demons have to come back. It probably won't come back in the quarterfinals, but with a little extra pressure on her in the finals, might be there. Belinda's like stone-faced for when she's gotten there. And, again, she's been good. Rybakina is very similar in that respect. Again, much younger, though, with Rybakina. But overall, I do like those looks as well, and that kind of wraps it up. So, again, if you're going to be up and watching the matches, I do like that over 2.5 sets for Humbert, Khachanov. And, again, I do like Belinda money line, and then spread likes his girl Svitolina on the ladies' end. But overall, another good show. We'll try to do this again on Friday. It'll be a little shorter show, though, because there'll only be a few matches, but give you more perspective on them as well. We'll be able to talk the women's finals and the men's semis, right? It should be, or is there?
I'm thinking that's how it'll be. I think we'll be able to talk the women's final on Friday if we do it around this time, and then we'll be the men's semis. But we can go ahead and give it out because, like I said, I really think whoever wins this Zverev Djokovic match is the winner of this tournament here. So if things go as we expect today, that'll be the match that we're previewing, and that will be the de facto finals, so to speak here, barring anything crazy here. So I'll be looking forward to doing that. And hopefully people are liking the shows and getting stuff from it. Obviously, without us giving out winners, that's going to make the show more popular, but just hanging out and enjoying the discussion as well.
Yeah, as always, folks, thanks for watching the show. Feel free to like the video, subscribe if you're not already. Hopefully you already are. But again, as always, like the videos. There'll be some more content coming up this weekend or coming into the weekend. Obviously, Joey's got you covered in bases tonight with a live preview show of the whole rundown. I'll have you another baseball video for Thursday. We'll be back on Friday with tennis, likely a live show or two in between. Then, of course, the weekend worth of work with UFC. Obviously, we did the PGA vid yesterday. So, a lot of fun content all around. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, run Pure Sports as well. But again, as always, folks, gamble responsibly, stay safe. And until then, run pure. See you guys next time.